How we doing, folks? Buster Slinger Sports coming at you again from AMON Carter Stadium. James, today we saw TCU pretty much do what we predicted them to do. Put a beat down on Stephen F. Austin today, 70-7.
Yeah, they did. They came out and they it seemed like they were just going balls to the wall, you know what I mean? Coach Patterson, you know, when he came in there, he talked about how they wanted to slow it down
in the second quarter,
so they could keep some of those guys in there and stuff like that.
Run their full offense.
Get a flow going, get their full thing. You know, we talked about it before this game. You know, I said I think Colby Lissaby's going to have a big game because of the big play capability that he has with his speed. Yes. Plus, SFA was giving up the big ball last week.
Yes, they were.
Too.
Yes, we talked about big plays they were giving up. And the third drive, Colby Lissaby, had one play, 60-yard drive, and it was nothing but Colby Lissaby. Not even a chance. He just blew right by the corner, and it was one-on-one coverage.
Yeah, and then the play of Trayvon Boykin. I mean, he actually, you know, had a lot better game this week than he did last week against Minnesota. But then again, you're playing an FBS team to an FCS team, which is kind of a difference, you know. Yes. You don't know really where to put it in between those two.
And Patterson said reality somewhere in the middle.
Somewhere in the middle, that's yes. Right. And reality is always in the middle of somewhere. But I didn't really get a chance to listen to Boykin about what he thought about his performance with the game and everything in there.
Oh, he did. He was very, very good about the performance, but he didn't want to brag too much because he knew, hey, it was Stephen F. Austin, but he was proud of how they did improve last week on some things. And that's what it's all about if you want to get to the playoff at the end of the year, is improve week by week by week. And they obviously did that from what they did last week against Minnesota when they were a little sluggish.
Now, you know, another key to the game that we talked about that was going to be important for this was for basically that young defense of TCU to step up and do something today, especially that young linebacking core. And it seems like they came in there and did do something.
Yes, Patterson pretty much spent half the time bragging about these linebackers. You know, there's a mixture of guys who hadn't played linebacker. They were playing strong side safety, free safety, and even slot corner was one of them he was talking about. But he said those guys will be playing as linebacker next week against SMU. That's how impressed he was by their performance today.
Yeah, you know, and then the press conference, which you can watch later on, we'll have the whole thing uncut for you there to look at it. He also talked about, too, that he was watching ESPN this morning, and they were talking about TCU didn't have any linebackers or defensive backs that could do anything.
His exact words were, they said they sucked, and he had a little smirk on his face. He wants to prove them wrong about that.
So, I mean, obviously he sees something there that somebody else doesn't see, but he is the defensive wizard that is able to do all this stuff. And now the third thing we talked about, too, that was a key to the game was ground control. And TCU definitely did have the ground control today. You know, the only thing really that was a blemish for them on defense today was that 75-yard run they gave up there. But then again, Patterson talked about that. He did have third and fourth stringers in there at that point in time. And he said they've got a rule, if you get scored on, you don't play. So it's going to be curious to see who plays out of this group again after that one.
I like that rule. It's a pretty good rule, though. Keeps those guys out there trying hard, no matter what the score is or who you're playing against.
Yeah, and another astonishing fact to look at for that defense, too, is if we take all the total yards that were gained by SFA on offense, if we take away that 75-yard run, this is a defense that held Stephen F. Austin to under 100 total yards for the game.
Yes, what was it? The starting quarterback, Zach Conker, who eventually got taken out when it was 35-0. He had, 9 total passing yards?
9 total passing yards, that's correct.
I think through, 11 completions. So that kind of gives you an idea of how TCU's defense was strengthening up the outside, not letting any, screen passes or anything a little cute. Yards after catch, get away from him a little bit.
And that was, he did come out at the end of the first half. So he came out for the first half, and then he walked back up the tunnel. Yeah. Not going to speculate on injuries or anything else like that, but we did see him getting his left knee taped up and wrapped up and everything. Next week's going to be SMU here at AMON Carter Stadium. We got to see a little glimpse of SMU last week with the Baylor game where they played. It seems like
actually didn't play too bad either.
Yeah, and it seems like that offense is a lot more up-tempo than it was when we saw it in the Tom Mason era. What do you expect to see out of this game with SMU next week? Do you think it's going to be a more physical game than they've had all year, or?
No, it won't be a more physical game. I mean, Minnesota is probably the most physical game they have until they probably play UT October 3rd. But SMU does provide some challenges. I mean, Matt Davis coming back from SMU, he had a shaky year. I mean, that whole SMU team was a disaster last year. But Matt Davis looked actually pretty good against Baylor. They scored 21 points in the first half, and then Baylor kind of strengthened, the hold on him. But I think it'll be, TCU by 30 points, 25 points, somewhere in that area. But it definitely won't be the most physical battle TCU's had. No, that Minnesota game was pretty rough on him, and I think it was a good learning experience for him, and they won't let that happen to him until Big 12 play when they really start playing some tough foes.
Well, I think that's about it for our post-game show from here in Fort Worth, unless you got anything else you want to add.
No, nothing at all.
All right, folks, that's it for Mustard Slinger Sports here at the SFA TCU game. We'll see you next week right here in the same stadium for SMU. I believe it's at 7:30 next Saturday night, correct?
Yep.
Okay, y'all have a good weekend.